5.20. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, chapter number 5, verse number 20, chapter entitled Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness. So you have the verse on the screen, you can recite after me. Na prashet priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmaved brahmani sthiti sita brahmani sthita na prayashret priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmaved brahmani sthita na prayashret priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmaved brahmane sthita na prayashet priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmaved brahmane sthita na prayashret priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmane sthita na prayashret priyam prapya nodvijet prapya cha priyam stira buddhir asamodho brahmane sthita Rasamodho brahmane sthita. Mataji's. Okay, word to word meaning. Na, never. Prashret, rejoices. Priyam, the pleasant. Prapya, achieving. Na, does not. Udvijet, become agitated. Prapya, obtaining. Cha, also. Priyam, the unpleasant. Stira buddhi, self-intelligent. Asamudha, unbewildered. Brahmaved, one who knows the Supreme perfectly. Brahmani, in the transcendence. Sthita, situated. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God, is already situated in transcendence. Purport. The symptoms of a self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with his true self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is a fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything, which is related to his body. This steadiness of mind is called stira buddhi, or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. He thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padagamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sachivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Ti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashita Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gauratvishe Namaha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Kam Garo Divacha Yatripatamam Vande Shri. Hare Krishna. So we are reading this 5th chapter, which is in continuation. Basically a brief summary of this chapter is linked to the 4th chapter, where Krishna speaks about Gnana, transcendental knowledge. And in the 16th and the 16th to 18th verse of those chapters, he speaks about Gnana. Post that, he also speaks about renunciation, Gnana along with renunciation. And in 42nd verse of the 4th chapter, he mentions that he inspires Arjuna to fight again. So what happens at the end of 4th chapter is Arjuna is again confused as to what he's supposed to do. Whether he's supposed to renounce or he's supposed to fight, work or either renounce. So similar question Arjuna asks, which he is asking in chapter number 3. Okay, and that's how chapter number 5 starts. He starts with beginning of asking a question: what should I do? What is better for me? Whether I should work, whether I should fight, or I should renounce. Because for Arjuna, both these things are two different things. They are not the same thing. He thinks that if I am renouncing, that means I'm not doing anything. Matlab as it is baitha ho, matlab main kuch nahi kar raha hu. And if I'm working, then I'm killing, and that's an abominable activity. I'm going to be incurring sin. So he's confused. So this chapter number 5 is also broken down into different parts. The first section mentions about Arjuna asking questions. The second section comes to the place where Arjuna is asking, Karma yoga is better than taking sannyas. So which is better? So, but for Arjuna, Krishna recommends that it's better to do action rather than premature renunciation, rather than renouncing prematurely, without understanding. Like if you come back to the first chapter, Arjuna was mentioning that, second chapter, where Arjuna is mentioning the 5th reason not to fight is indecisiveness. He's not able to decide whether he should fight or not fight. Because if I fight, then I may be defeated, or I may kill, then I can incur sin. But if I run away from the battlefield and if I go and beg, then I'll become a beggar. I'll have to ask for bhiksha. So which is better for me? to be a beggar or to fight. And Krishna says, if you be a beggar, actually you cannot be a beggar because you are Kshatriya by nature. So if somebody doesn't give you bhiksha, you will take out your sword, and you will challenge that person. Okay, how are you denying me some bhiksha, So Arjuna was confused. He was not sure about that. Hence, the second section of this chapter also mentions that Arjuna should not prematurely renounce his duty of being a Kshatriya. Kshatriya means the one who fights for protection of his praja. Kshatriya, one who fights for protection of his praja. And especially to establish dharma. Then you come to the third section of this chapter where it talks about performing Nishkam Karma Yoga. You perform activities for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. And of late, since the last few days, what we have been discussing, this section, which is regarding liberation, by focusing on the Supreme, and especially verses 17 to 21. Today we are discussing verse number 20, but especially the verses 70 to 21, they speak about symptoms of a person who is self-realized. Symptoms. क्या वो लक्षण है, एक व्यक्ति में क्या वो लक्षण है जो जिससे ये पता चलता है that this person is self-realized. This person is self-realized. So over here, the same thing is being discussed. In fact, the verses 20 and 21, they give around 8 symptoms of a person who is self-realized, out of which 6 are mentioned in this verse that we are discussing today, and 2 of them are mentioned in the verse 21, which we may discuss tomorrow. So now let's come to this verse, which is being primarily discussed over here. So Krishna says in this verse, he says, "Na prayashit priyam prapya." So the one who is actually this is a verse which is ideal for a bhakta or a siddha, one who is fixed in devotional service. It doesn't really make a difference to him whether there is happiness or whether there is distress. It doesn't make a really difference to that person. So that's why it starts with na prayashit. It doesn't make really a difference. Never he celebrates. Generally, what type of celebration do we do? If something that we desire, if we receive that, जो हम चाहते हैं वो हमें मिल जाता है, then in that case we are elated. We are very happy about it. But a devotee of the Lord, a Krishna conscious person, is not elated because he knows that this material world is temporary. Everything is in a flick of a second. It's like a flux. So the happiness that is coming to me is also temporary, and the distress that is going to come to me, cha priyam, that is the distress that is going to come to me is also temporary. It is not permanent. It's not going to be staying forever. Hence he says, na prayashit priyam prapya, no dujet prapya cha priyam. In both the stages, he remains sthira buddhi. He doesn't get he doesn't get bewildered. He doesn't get bewildered. He remains sthira buddhi. Many times we see people in the material world to challenge the influence of the material nature. They try to amend things. Like if they feel hot, they make facilities to have a cooler environment or have an air conditioning. Or if they feel cold, they have a heater set up to it. But as it is mentioned over here, Sthira Buddhi Rasa Muda Brahmavid Brahmani Sthita, because the one who knows Brahmavid means the one who is self-realized. How are you self-realized? When you know that you're not this body but a spirit soul. And when one knows that you're not this body but spirit soul, then will it really make a difference to you whether it's hot or cold? It doesn't really make a difference to you whether it's, because can the soul feel hot? No, the soul cannot feel hot. Can the soul feel cold? No. What feels hot and cold is your body. Is a body which is feeling hot and cold. It's not the soul, right? But generally, when we are on the material platform, where we are on the material conception, we relate things to the bodily platform. And that's how we make facilities which are soothing the material body. Soothing the material body. But over here, Krishna mentions that these are the symptoms It's mentioned the symptom of a self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by false identification. False identification is that we are not this body, but the spirit soul. So it may be very surprising to hear some of us who are sitting over here. I'm sorry to say this, but we are not this body. We are not this body. Generally we identify ourselves with this body. We get up in the morning, we look in the mirror, we identify ourselves with the body. This is how I'm looking, this is how my hair is, this is how my complexion of the body is. And that's how we identify others also. Somebody is fat, somebody is thin, somebody is beautiful, somebody is not so beautiful. And we live on that bodily platform for a very long time. Even when we come in a devotee environment, there are many times we judge basis the appearance of a person. We judge basis the appearance of a person. That's purely on a bodily platform. That's purely on a bodily platform. And that's not Brahmavit. That's not a Brahmavit. That's not a person who is one who knows the Supreme perfectly, one who is self-realized. Brahmavit is a person who is knowing reality. He is knowing that I'm not this body, but a part and parcel. I'm a spirit soul who is a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. Like in the spiritual world, there is a concept of the master and the servant. The servant, or say the master and the served. Even the demigods in the spiritual world are servants of the Supreme Lord. And when we understand this relationship, we actually identify that we are we are just like, Anu. Like the Supreme Lord is Vibhu, huge, big. And we as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, we are just like an Anu, a small particle. So that is what is mentioned over here. Further, Krishna says that he who knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but a fragmental portion of the Supreme Lord of Godhead, he is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to his body. So generally, for example, we feel that if somebody is giving me respect, that person is very intelligent. He's an intelligent man because he's giving me respect. And somebody who is not giving me respect, is disrespectful to me, he's not so intelligent. Is not so intelligent. That's how we discriminate. But the devotee of the Lord, that is what is mentioned. Na prayashyat priyam prapya, na nodvijit prapya cha priyam. He is not bewildered by respect and dishonor, by happiness and by distress. He is not bewildered by both these things. He remains steady. He remains sthira. And how does he remain sthira? He remains sthira by being in Krishna consciousness. So, does it mean that we should not desire? We should not have desires? No, we should have desires, but which are no nonsense desires, but desires which are in line with Krishna consciousness, or desires for Krishna. For example, like many of y'all, you stay here in the temple, and if you go, most of us, if you are from Bombay, then you would realize that we have houses which are mostly like matchboxes, matchboxes. And when we come to temple, everything is grand. You go to the Prashadam hall, it's grand. Your Prashadam menu is grand. Your temple hall, where you spend most part of the day, is also grand. Like that, everything is in a very magnanimous way. So, I was talking about desires. So is it incorrect to desire? No. A living entity is by default will have to desire. But those desires should be for Krishna. Like if you wish to stay in an apartment which is as big as this temple, then that is for your sense gratification. But the same anxiety or the same desire if I have to make a costly temple for the Supreme Lord, then that's the desire in line with Krishna consciousness. That's the desire in line with desire to please the Supreme Lord. It's not for my own sense gratification. Like over here, we are sitting in a very wonderful, how many of us have a marble flooring at home? Not many of us, Many of us don't have a marble flooring, but we sit over here in a marble flooring. Everywhere there's marble. It's actually a marble palace. It's actually a marble palace. So the anxiety, like on every Ekadashi, nowadays we are reading I'll build you a temple, the Jew story, right? So, in that we hear that how Prabhupada as well as the disciples of Prabhupada, they all took anxiety. They all took anxiety for building this temple. They came from most of the disciples of Prabhupada at that point of time. They were Westerners, and they all came from very elated backgrounds. Especially Giriraj Swami Maharaj, who has compiled that book, who has written that book. He comes from a very aristocratic family. He had a house as big as this temple. He was so rich, but he left that to have an austere environment and take anxiety to build this palace for the Lord. So that's perfection of life. That's the one who is. That's a symptom of a sadhaka. That's a symptom of a devotee. That's a symptom. So here we are discussing symptoms. There we are discussing symptoms. And that's how one knows the science of God. And one is situated in transcendence. When do we say that one is situated in transcendental mood? When one knows the science of God. What is the science of God? Science of God is know that I'm not this body, but a spirit, soul, and I'm a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. I'm part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. I'm not the boss myself, the way we are. Generally, we behave outside. Everything revolves around me. Everything revolves around me. My house, my relatives, my family, my income, and things like that. Everything revolves around but that is not a self-realized person. That's a mudha. That's a foolish person. That's a foolish person. But sthira buddhir asa mudha. He's not unbewildered. He's not a foolish person. He's steady in his intelligence. So yeah, that is what is mentioned. And going ahead, this steadiness of mind is called sthira buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul. Nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. So there is never a time that he disregards the existence of a soul in any other living entity also. Many times we disregard, when we ill-treat not just human beings, but we ill-treat other species of life also. That's also disregarding the existence of the soul. That's also going to a level where we are not self-realized, where we are not Brahmavit. We are coming back to the material platform, material plane. When we are ill-treating other living entities as well. Forget about just the human beings, but we are ill-treating even other living entities. So he is never, here is clearly mentioned, he is therefore never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul. Never. He always considers everybody as a part and parcel of the spirit soul. That's how, when this Hare Krishna land was also being made, there were many trees. If you still come, if you enter the temple, there are many trees right in the middle of the, walkway or the vehicle entrance. But Prabhupada gave clear instructions not to cut them off. Not to cut them off, because that's a self-realized person who sees a soul in each and every person. He doesn't come on a bodily platform ever. Doesn't come. But अगर हमारे रूम में या हमारे रात के मस्कीटो नेट में एक भी मच्छर आता है, then also we forget that spiritual platform. We immediately come back. अरे we do like this, we do like this. Natural है हमारा, defend. Natural. Natural. So that's very important to keep this in mind, that we should not forget that we are not this body but spirit, soul, and everybody else around us, the living beings, are also part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. So this knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So absolute truth, as we know, can be realized in 3 phases. Prabhupada gives a very famous example of the sun, the sun planet, the sun disk, and the sun rays, and the degree of temperature on each one of them is different. It's not the same. The sun rays has a different temperature, the sun disk has a different temperature, and the sun planet itself has a different temperature. So a student who is studying the sun rays, and another student is studying the sun disk, the third student is studying the sun planet. All three of them are said to be studying the same subject matter, but they are all on a different platform. They are not on the same platform. They are not on the same platform. So over here, the knowledge, when one is sthira buddhi, the knowledge, when one is self-realized, he comes to the absolute platform. He comes to the absolute platform. And that absolute platform, he worships the Supreme Lord as Bhagavan, as a person, as a person. The Supreme Lord is a person. That's how you have relationship with the person, right? If it's matter and if it's impersonal, how will you have relationship? How can you have relationship with this fan? How is it possible to have relationship with this fan? You get up in the morning, you take prasad, you also feed the fan from prasad, You apply tilak, you apply him also tilak. Is it possible? Impersonal. It's impersonal. But the Supreme Lord is a person. That's how we have relationship. That's how we have relationship. When we are technologically advanced, these things happen. So yeah, that's what is mentioned. The knowledge elevates him to station of the knowing complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramatma, and the Bhagavan feature of the Lord. So three aspects of the Supreme Lord are mentioned here. And he thus knows his constitutional position perfectly well without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. So there are many philosophers who say that, okay, when you leave this body, you will become one with the Supreme Lord. You will lose your identity. आप जो अभी हो, वो आप नहीं रहोगे. आप भक्ति कर करके, साधना कर करके, one day you will become like the Supreme Lord. You will become one with the Supreme Lord. You will not have your separate identity. You will not have your separate identity. You will lose that identity. Basically, that is the Mayavad philosophy, wherein the Mayavad Bhasya says this, that you lose the identity of the Supreme Lord. Basically, you lose your identity. You become one with the Lord. But Krishna very clearly mentions in the second chapter, there was never a time when I did not exist, you did not exist, and in this Kings also, which is that verse? Na tu evam jato nasham nacham neme janadipa nachaiva na bhavishyame sarvavayam ataparam. So there was never a time when I did not exist, my dear friend Arjuna, when you and all these kings. So he establishes individuality very clearly. He establishes individuality very, very clearly. So this is also again in the purport, Prabhupada abolishes that he knows that. So person who is Brahmavit, who is self-realized, he knows a constitutional position. He never falsely trying to become one with the Supreme Lord. He never tries to become one with the Supreme Lord. Many times in this age of Kali, there are many so-called pseudo-leaders also who, to bewilder or to fool the innocent, they say that I am an incarnation of God or I am an avatar of God. So this is that reference. They never try to falsely try to become one with the Supreme Lord. So this is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such steady consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. So to be in Krishna consciousness, one has to come to this Brahman realization. A realization where one knows that one is not this body, but a spirit soul, and one is not bewildered by the effects of the material world. One is not bewildered. As I was mentioning, that those who are not Krishna conscious and they live in this material world, who are bereft of the Krishna consciousness, they try to make facilities to get away from the problems of the material world. So as I said, if it's too hot, then try to have an air-conditioned facility to help yourself cool off. But again, in the second chapter, Krishna mentions a very wonderful verse where it mentions that Matra Sparsha Sukantaya Sitoshana Sukadaha Agama Paino Nityas Tam Tatikshava Bharata. So whether it's winter season or summer season, you have to be Tam Tatikshava, you have to tolerate. So if it's If it's cold, still you have to get up early in the morning and take bath. And if it's hot, still your mother would never say that, oh my dear son, it's too hot, I cannot cook for you. So it's better you fast the whole summer season. Never does that happen. We have to tolerate and go along with it. That's what a Krishna conscious person does, is that he tolerates. He tolerates in any situation. A Krishna conscious person will always tolerate. He'll never get agitated or never make facilities to change the atrocities of the material nature that are coming upon the living entity. Because that is coming on the bodily platform. It is not on the spiritual platform. It is not on the spiritual platform. So yeah, this is something that we can speak from this verse. And so basically, the practical application of this section, in summary, is that a yogi will always fix his mind on the Supreme to achieve liberation, and tolerate the difficulties that are coming upon us. So in the subsequent verses, you will see that how people who are enjoying senses, are doing sense gratificatory activities, Krishna is telling them to tolerate. Krishna is telling them to tolerate. How to tolerate. And then subsequently he gives a brief about Ashtanga Yoga, and then concludes with the peace formula in this chapter. So that's the sum and substance. But the primary thing is that Krishna is recommending is that you perform actions, but which are purely Krishna conscious. They are not. See, why was Arjuna disappointed? Arjuna was sitting 2 feet away from Krishna, right? 2 feet. You are still sitting 5 feet away from me. But Arjuna was sitting 2 feet away. But still he was disappointed. Why? Why was he disappointed? Krish means attractive, and now means happiness. The one who gives happiness and attraction means Krishna. So Arjuna was still sitting just 2 feet away from Krishna. Still he was unhappy. Why? Because his opinion was in the opposite direction to the opinion of the Supreme Lord. His opinion was in the opposite direction to the opinion of the Supreme Lord. That's why he was disappointed. That's why in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, when his moha is nashta moha smritil labdha, when Arjuna says, now my moha is nashta, and now I shall do what you are telling me to do. Karishye vachanam tava. That happens when you are performing actions which are in line with the Lord's plan. Not in line with our plan. As soon as we get up in the morning, we have a plan. A plan which is going to be satisfying our senses. Not a plan which is going to be satisfying or not a plan which is going to be satisfying the senses of our authorities. Generally, we have a plan to satisfy our own senses. But our senses, they are in a diseased state. They are not in a pure state. But the senses of the Lord, Rishikesh, the senses of the Lord, they are not in a diseased state. They are in a pure state. So when we engage our desires and our plans and our senses in the service of the Lord, then we get purified. And if you see, Krishna consciousness is a natural process. We get up in the morning, our eyes, they want to see something beautiful, so we take the darshan of the Lord. We want to smell something nice, so we are all given after the Aarti, we are given flowers. We all want to smell something nice. We also get the essence which is offered to the Lord. Then we also want to hear something nice. So we hear kirtans. And then we want to engage our tongue also. So either we take prasad or we are given an opportunity to speak, so that we can speak glories of the Lord. Not speak about our own selves, but you speak about the glories of the Lord. So engaging all your senses. And if you want to touch, you can touch, you can dress the deities, you can you can hold the hands of the devotees and dance in kirtan. So all the senses of the Lord can be engaged in the service of the Lord. And by that, it's very easy. Forget about controlling, it's naturally controlled. You're not artificially doing it, it's naturally controlled. There is no artificial process. It's not forced upon you. Even if an outsider comes, he's sitting for the whole morning program, naturally his all senses are engaged in the service of the Lord. Naturally. He takes darshan, he gets flower. ऐसा नहीं कि मतलब he's wearing casuals so flower नहीं मिलेगा, essence नहीं मिलेगा, या प्रसाद नहीं मिलेगा. It's an equal treatment. Pandita Samadarshana, there was a verse, right, 2 days ago. So there is an equal treatment, and that's how it gets benefited. Hence, we should, in regards to this chapter, Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness, you perform actions which are in line with pleasing the Supreme Lord, not pleasing our own demands of the mind and the senses. Okay. So I stop here. If there are any questions or if there are any comments, you can ask. No questions? As very famously many people say, that there can be two ways. या तो अगर कुछ समझ में मैंने बोला इतना कि कुछ समझ में नहीं आया, या तो फिर सब समझ में आ गया. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, Prabhuji, as you said, it is the people who are working outside, so it is very difficult for them to maintain this consciousness. Because of so many things going out. So how we can, adapt this principle which you said to always be Krishna conscious, or to direct all your actions to the for the pleasure of Krishna.
So you are asking this for the people, for the benefit of the outside people, or for the benefit of the...
Even many devotees are working outside.
Achha, for the people who are... Achha, for devotees who are inside as well as outside. So inside wale to safe hai because they are 24 hours engaged. But for the devotees who are working inside as well as outside, I don't think so. They are in a very difficult situation because they all engaged. They have a good morning program. As long as you have a good morning program, you automatically engage your senses. Like Vaisheshika Prabhu says, if you have a good morning program and if you chant your 16 rounds, that's like an armor for yourself. आर्मर. मालूम है ना, जब बाहर सोल्जर लड़ने जाता है तो क्या पहन के जाता है? लाइफ जैकेट पहन के जाता है, बुलेट प्रूफ, ताकि गोली लगेगा तो भी it will not hit the body, it will hit the jacket. So chanting 16 rounds, association of devotees, taking prasad, greeting the devotees, greeting the deities in the morning, it's all like your armor. So if the armor is there, then you are protected. Then there is no way that material energy can harm you. But if there is no armor, and if you feel that ठीक है बाहर जा रहा हूँ ट्रेन में जब कर लूँगा 16 माला या ट्रैवलिंग करते करते जब कर लूँगा, then that's like a very dangerous situation. You are entering an enemy territory without any weapons, without any weapons and without any armor. And when we do that, that's very dangerous. You may survive or you may get shaheed also. You may get sacrificed also. So that's very dangerous. Hence, for those who are inside as well as outside or working devotees, it's best that they engage their morning program. If they are staying in and around temple or say any of the centers, or for those who stay very far, they can still get up in the morning and attend it online. And there are now, because of COVID, there are so many online japa sessions in the morning. Many temples, many devotees I see in the temple hall in the morning, they are doing it, They help others do japa by they sitting over here doing japa. That's so nice. We have this very famous online japas, morning japa program with His Holiness Lokanath Swami Maharaj. It's so famous. People from across the world join that. I've seen it, so many people. Whether they are his disciples or not, they all join. So it is such a wonderful program. So facilities are there. It's just that we have to take little bit of effort. Little bit of effort. Ye yathamam prapadyante tam sateva bhajamyam. So you take a step ahead, I'll also take a step ahead. Krishna is saying that. So we have to make a little bit of effort. and effort is to sincerely practice Krishna consciousness. If that little bit of sincerity is there, then Krishna will provide what we lack. He says that, right? He will provide what we lack, and He will protect what we have also. So for those who are close by, for those who are little far, and for those who are very far, we have facilities for all of them to engage themselves in Krishna consciousness. And we conduct so many programs also. All programs are now online as well as offline. So there is no reason, right now just a person just, fell because he was just in his mobile, shooting right now, just a few minutes back. It happened. So this facility is there in your pocket. You have to just take out, click on the link and join. You can be with the association of the devotees. It's so simple. So using the technology, using things in Krishna's service, that's fulfilling your that's something Krishnized. It's not something that is just for your own pleasure. So hope that answers your question, Prabhu. Any other questions? Great. So we stop here. Yeah. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Hari Premanande, Hari Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.